So, we're going to talk about Morne for the second time today, because we had recorded a podcast about Morne, and then I sent Sinclair a video Let's Play of the PlayStation 1 game Hooters Road Trip. I can't remember the exact context, but this caused her computer to crash, and we lost all of it. So we're now going to re-record it.
Marianne de Auguste asked about Morne in one of the comments in one of the videos, so I thought we should talk about it.
We should. For the first time, let's discuss Morne.
First time ever, exclusive. Not the fourth time at all.
It's more like the third and a half time.
No, I'm pretty sure we tried 3 times, and then it crashed, and...
It's gonna be the 5th one soon. We need to stay on topic.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Morne is an apostle of the Archbishop. They don't specify anything really about the Archbishop, but we can assume that the Archbishop is the Archbishop of the Way of White, because Morne is from Carim, and the Way of White is based in Carim. And Morne and the Archbishop work together says they provide comfort to the suffering, doesn't really go into much detail about what exactly that entails. And Morne is a worshipper of the goddess Kytha, and he is only ever a worshipper of Kytha. He doesn't care about the other gods. And because Morne is a worshipper of Kytha exclusively, the Knights of Carim pattern their behavior after that by... There's Knight of Carim who dresses like Morne, and they have to dedicate themselves fully to looking after one maiden who is kind of like Kytha.
You're really good at this after 4 times.
I know.
That's how we should do every podcast.
We'll do a practice one.
There we go, yeah.
After every podcast, we will watch a Let's Play of Hooters Road Trip.
And remember we also mentioned how Eygon's armor is made of something that resembles stone, but isn't?
Yes. It says it's a material that's like stone.
And then we were like, oh my god, what if it's made of gargoyles? Like, what if they're literally wearing gargoyles?
Because Eygon wears a very distinctive helmet that looks like a gargoyle, and it says that it's modeled after the gargoyles on the cathedral in Carim. Mm-hmm. And then we were thinking, for the third time we recorded this, we were thinking maybe... What if he was actually wearing one of the gargoyles, and he's wearing parts of the cathedral because it would be made of a material that was like stone?
Yeah.
Yeah. It probably sounded better at the time. Now that we're repeating it, it just sounds ridiculous. Oh, there's another night, we better rip another gargoyle off the roof. There's just some guy whose job it is to go on the roof of the cathedral and rip a gargoyle off every time they ordain a new knight.
You pictured it?
Yeah, it's just this, really annoyed, just, worker guy, he's got a scaffold. Maybe it's, he's got, one of those window cleaner things. Yeah. And he, goes up to the top of the... He's like, we need a new... Is that a new night? Can you get a gargoyle? Yeah, hang on.
Oh, my God.
It's there's got to be an easier way to do this. Can't we just carve these ourselves? No. It's not sacred otherwise.
Oh my god. No, Richard. The way I pictured it was they were maybe hunting down gargoyles and then emptying out their insides and wearing their skin.
So you think that they're like Dark Souls 1 living gargoyles and they're...
Yeah.
I was picturing just actual gargoyles on the side of a cathedral.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
It's just an airy full of gargoyles on top of the cathedral. They're like the ravens in the tower. It's just, here's the gargoyles.
Yeah, and they say my lore ideas are ridiculous. But yeah, wouldn't it be cool though? You kill a gargoyle, you cut off his head, you take out the brains, and then you wear his face.
Would they have brains if they were a gargoyle? Wouldn't they be made of rock?
Well, how else would they walk around? You need a brain to control your body or whatever.
Isn't it magic?
Touché, my friend. Touché.
So in your version of Dark Souls, there's just It's the other way around, where there's living creatures called gargoyles who are hunted and then mounted on cathedrals.
Yes. Wouldn't that make sense, though?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. This is worse than the last one.
Okay. Play that Hooters clip. We're doing this again.
Do you want to talk about the Velka-Kytha connections?
How did we get to it? I feel like there was a logical progression to it last time.
Okay, well, I'll try to do the logical progression from memory.
Okay.
Okay. You find the corpses of another Carim Knight and Carim Maiden on the way to the Cathedral of the Deep on the Road of Sacrifices. There's 2 corpses in a cave. One of them has Morne's ring, and one has the Braille Divine Tome of Carim. So that looks like this was a Carim Knight and a Maiden who got killed on the Road of Sacrifices. You also find one of the Carim miracles, I can't remember which one. It's like Tears of Denial, I think, is found kind of in that area. I think it's in the Farron area. So we were thinking, like, is it that the Cathedral of the Deep is like a site of pilgrimage for the Carim people? Because when you get to the cathedral, there's snipers in the cathedral, and they talk about how the sniper crossbow comes from Carim, and you find the sniper crossbow in the cathedral. And the Cathedral of the Deep has quite distinctive gargoyles all over it, which kind of fits with the way that Carim's cathedral is described. And the Eygon and Irina story, the story there is Eygon is worried that Irina is going to become corrupted. And when you get to the cathedral, you find out that the clerics in the cathedral, through contact with the deep, became corrupted. So we were wondering if, like, maybe the Cathedral of the Deep is something to do with Carim, and maybe, like, at some point in the story, that was Carim, and then they just made it a non-specific place later on. The other thing about the cathedral is that there's all those statues of that weeping woman. Like, this came up when we were talking with Bob the Hollow, but if Ashes of Ariandel doesn't exist, then you could very, very easily say that was Kytha, because it's a woman who is weeping. And Kytha is the goddess of tears, and she's worshipped in Carim, which is where the Way of White are based now. So, okay, that's Kytha. But then Ashes of Ariandel comes along, and you have Slave Knight Gale explicitly call that statue Mother of the Forlorn. You go to the Painted World, and they say that the Painted World is the Velka area from Dark Souls 1, where Velka's crow people live. You meet Frida there, and it says that Frida's taken on a form that the crow people are worshipping, and Frida looks like the statues in the cathedral. And there is a Velka statue in the game, but it looks nothing like the ones in the cathedral. It's a much older woman, posed differently, and it's like buried in this old grave. So, the other big thing is that Kytha's chime scales with intelligence, which is like how Velka's talisman works in Dark Souls 1, because usually talisman scales with faith, but this scales with intelligence. So, it's like, taken on their own, you could say that Kytha and Velka were maybe the same god, or maybe they were the same goddess. But the problem is that the game is referencing them both at the same time. Like, Dark Souls 2 has Velka's stuff in it, and it refers to her, doesn't call her by name, it just says a goddess of sin whose name has been forgotten. So if they'd kept up with that, you could say, okay, maybe over time Velka has become worshipped as Kytha, and they're actually the same goddess. But Dark Souls 3 explicitly mentions Velka and Kytha at the same time in different places. So you have, like, Velka and Kytha are separate. So it's all quite... It's not ambiguous implies that it could be. It's more like it's maybe both at once. Prior to Ashes of Ariandel, it looks like that's Kytha in the cathedral. Then Ashes of Ariandel makes it Velka. And then other stuff that goes on in Dark Souls kind of implies Velka and Kytha are the same. So I don't know, really.
Yeah, so like we were saying, it seems like something happened between the main game and the DLC.
Or just during the making of the main game.
Or that, yeah.
Because the way it talks about the Way of White moving from Thurland to Carim, and when they move to Carim, that coincides with them deciding that Allfather Lloyd is a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't say who replaces Allfather Lloyd, but Kytha is the main goddess in Carim. That's where the big cathedral to Kytha is. So it would make sense if Kytha is now the head most worshipped deity. I mean, head deity is wrong. That's not how the Way of White works from what we gather. But like, the focus of Way of White being on Kytha makes perfect sense. It's just that the DLC then basically says, no, that's Velka. So now it looks like Way of White worship Velka. Which is really odd, because she's described as an outsider deity.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Kytha could be an aspect of Velka. Because Kytha's described in terms of like tears and suffering. And that sort of fits with her being like connected to the Forlorn and the lost.
Right.
Right.
What if they were twins?
Maybe. What if Kytha is Gwyn's 6th child that we don't hear about?
Oh, well, listen, at this point, it's very possible. Who's also half dragon.
Yes. No. She's half Drake.
Lore solved. You heard it here first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And I wanted to ask you, so Morne's ring, it says it's a malformed ring.
Yeah.
Why does it say it's malformed?
I don't know. It just looks like it's weird looking. It has a gargoyle head, like, built onto it. So that might just mean that the gargoyle head is like, gross looking.
Oh, wait, malformed means like... Oops, let me Google that word.
Every time I laugh and it peaks on the waveform, I remember back to film school.
Uh-huh.
It's like, if I see anything peaking, it's an automatic fail.
Aww.
And I'm like, oh god, what if he can see this? He's in another state now. Yes, but what if?
He's probably watching.
He might be.
Interesting. I googled malformed and it's deformed, misshapen.
Yeah.
Did you just interrupt me with a can of Dr. Pepper?
I didn't think we were I didn't think we were recording this part.
What? How is this not recorded?
I thought we were taking a break for you to look up what the word malformed meant after you'd said it.
Words are part of lore, Richard.
Okay.
Lore is made of words, if you haven't noticed.
So now that you've looked up what malformed means.
Okay, well, here it says deformed, misshapen,
Yeah.
misproportioned, ill-proportioned, distorted, crooked, twisted.
Twisted. It's like Gale's second form when he becomes like a huge Hulk man. I imagine that being sold as an action figure, and it's called like Twisted Gale.
Well, there's a Twisted Rage, right? Of Morne.
Yeah, but yeah. Malformed can just mean like sort of ugly and weird, which fits with the ring because it does look, it's got like a gargoyle head on the ring.
But the head is not, it's like, it looks like a regular gargoyle. It doesn't look like a malformed gargoyle.
No, but you could say that the gargoyle itself is malformed because it's like a weird monster.
Well, no, that's not very nice though.
Well, I didn't write it. And it's not nice to all the wild gargoyles who were being poached to provide heads for the cathedral.
The wild gargoyles.
They're being hunted to extinction by Dark Souls 3's obsession with putting cathedrals everywhere.
Now I have a flashback to our talk about cathedrals during Take 2.
Well, that's lost to time now.
Oh god, that's, yeah. That cannot be reenacted. So when they say twisted rage, what do you think they mean?
I don't know, because it's just like Morne has twisted rage, but all we know about Morne is that he is the apostle of an archbishop, and they provide comfort to suffering people. So I don't know what the deal with Morne's rage. Almost rage doesn't even fit what that does, because the twisted rage weapon art is a defensive buff.
Yeah.
It's like it's helping you persevere through something. It's not making you hit harder or faster.
Yeah, I pointed that
So
out.
I don't.
And you
Yeah,
just appropriated my conversation to yourself.
I'm very sorry.
It's okay, because without you, I wouldn't have a channel, Richard.
That's true. That's true. There were no videos made before you started talking to me.
There's literally zero videos made before we started the podcasts 1 month ago. But yeah, as you were saying before you were rudely interrupted by Sinclair.
Yeah.
Yeah, twisted rage doesn't fit at all. Because it's a defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna be you, and I'm gonna look this up. No, it is Morne's. It's Morne no Ikari, which is like Morne's kind of furious anger, sort of. Yeah, it's like Morne's anger almost.
So it's the same in Japanese and English?
Hang on. I recognize the word, but it might have like another connotation. It can mean like hatred. It can mean a lot of things.
Oh, maybe it's like passive-aggressive rage of Apostle Morne. You know?
Yeah. It could also it's sort of like passionate rage or anger or like hate, sort of.
No, but it's a defense buff. Think about it. When you get passive-aggressive, you get defensive and you're full of rage.
Maybe.
And you start producing twisted burns.
Yeah, it's like you.
Oh my god, I'm Morne.
Maybe the idea is that like he's filled with so much rage and anger that he just keeps fighting. So you can't kill him, so that's why it's a defensive buff.
Have you heard of reaction formation?
No.
It's a concept in psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
And it's the tendency of a repressed wish or feeling to be expressed at a conscious level in a contrasting form.
Right.
So it's like he's so full of rage, but he's actually expressing it in terms of defense.
So we're now psychoanalyzing Morne.
We're now psychoanalyzing Morne. At least that psychology degree is paying off right about now. God knows it's not helping in real life. Do you know the best way to ruin your life?
Agree to podcast with Sinclair every Friday.
Or that.
Like, there was a pause where you were like, I could like get indignant and say something in return, but that's true. Okay, so I think we got everything, but there's one thing we missed.
What did we miss?
Which was Eygon's sister shield thing.
Oh, not only that, I'm supposed to ask you.
Yeah, I'm telling you to ask me.
No.
I think you should ask me this question now.
No, I'm supposed to ask you something else. I'm supposed to ask you.
Okay.
Who is the Archbishop?
We don't know, but we're assuming it's the Archbishop of the Way of White, and he's like head of the Way of White.
Thank you.
Because it's throwing around terminology that has a specific meaning in like Christian religions. But Way of White's not structured like a Christian religion, it's structured more like a Shinto thing. So when they start throwing around, Bloodborne is the same, when they start throwing around like actual titles within the church that have a specific meaning, it becomes kind of confusing to interpret them that way. So, like, Dark Souls is throwing around, like, Archbishop and Archdeacon and just Cleric without a rank, and it's, like, Havel is a bishop. It's, yeah. I think it comes from, a lot of it's very sort of D&D influenced, where, like, Cleric just means an adventurer who worships the gods and has healing powers. It's like Vince and Nico and Petrus are all clerics in Dark Souls.
Right.
But they're more like bodyguards, but they're called clerics. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you say like the word saint thrown around.
Yeah.
Like Saint, the Saint Bident, and there's like Astraea's a saint in Dark Souls. Not Dark, in Demon Souls, Astraea is a saint. But like you kind of can't be a saint until after you're dead. So it's a weird... Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like you have to go through a process of... You have to go through this really long process to become a saint that happens after you're dead, where like you have to have like confirmation that you performed certain like miracles in life and things. Whereas in the Souls games, saint is, I think it's just used in place of like very holy person. So kind of anyone can become a saint if they're holy enough, and it's just like a descriptor. It's not an official title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And just to backtrack a little bit, you know how Morne seems to be all about suffering or helping people through suffering or something?
It says they provided comfort to the suffering.
Okay, but at the same time, he has a lot of twisted rage.
Twisted rage! That's how I imagine, like, some terrible, like, 90s MMO commercial doing it. Morn unleashes his twisted rage!
Oh my god, have you played Borderlands 2?
No.
What's his name? Oh god, this is gonna bother me. I'll send you the clip after.
Will it make my computer crash?
Oh god, I hope so. It's gonna be revenge. Oh, no, because you have your recording. No. Now that I have everything good. No.
No, it'll crash on my end, and then we'll just stick your questions from this with my answers from the first one.
That would be so
and hope
cool.
they sync up.
Oh, man. But there's, what's his name? Mr. Torque. Mr. Torque from Borderlands 2. Oh, God. You don't know him?
No.
Bro, he's like the best character ever.
I haven't ever played Borderlands.
What is your problem,
form.
sir? Why didn't you ever play Borderlands?
Because I'm only allowed to play Souls games.
But anyway, back on topic.
Back on topic.
So we don't have to do take 17. Sorry, you said I have to ask you about something, and I completely forgot what it is.
Yeah, and then you said, don't tell me to ask you questions. That's
No.
my job. And then you forgot the question.
No, I didn't say that. I said I wanted to ask you something else.
Okay.
I'd never say that, Richard. I'm a gentle flower.
It's true.
Ah, what did you want me to ask you about?
His sister.
Oh, right. Okay. So, Richard, do you know how
Yes, Sinclair?
Eygon has a moaning shield?
He does.
Could you tell us your theories on it?
Well, Sinclair, Eygon's shield is the only part of his armor set and weapons that doesn't mention Morn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his hammer and his armor are all Morn, but the shield is described as it's a family heirloom.
I know, we talked about
That
it like
was-
4 times. I was being sarcastic,
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, but the people listening to this don't know that. So I do have to explain it from the beginning again for their benefit.
Go on.
Go on. So the shield has a face on it, and it's a woman's face, and it's the face of Eygon's sister, who is described as being his senior.
Mm-hmm.
And its weapon art is that when you use it, it moans, and that attracts enemies to you. So it lets you, like, fits with Kyther and suffering. If you're, like, helping people, you would use the moaning shield to, like, draw the enemies toward you to protect them.
Deep.
I didn't hear that.
What?
Did you say something?
Yeah, I said deep.
Oh, okay. I thought it cut out. You were just sassing a shield. You should write item descriptions for the next game. Just end everyone with like, whoa, deep.
Okay, well, thank you, Richard.
Is that all for... I like how we ended up just talking about Eygon instead of Morne. Because we never meet Morne.
Oh, but in the beginning of take 1, we had a really cool theory about how Morne is actually Yorm.
Yeah, they sound the same.
Yeah.
Proven.
Confirmed.
That's my theory about Millwood and Mirror.
Oh. Yeah, that's pretty dumb, Richard. Never say that out loud again, please.
Oh, yeah, I won't.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I mention my friend's videos again?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. A friend of mine made a series of videos about Carim and Lothric and the Way of White. And they're on his channel, and he doesn't make them anymore because his computer died and he lost interest. But they kind of go into like stuff about Carim and stuff about like Morne and Kytha. And there is a video he did about Morne and Kytha where I am Morne. And I got my character to wear Eygon's armor set. And his character was dressed as Kytha in Irina's armor set. And we wandered around the cathedral, and he talks about Eygon and Kytha, and you can watch that. It's shorter than this. It's shorter than this, but it doesn't have poachers hunting gargoyles. Which I think is your best contribution to Dark Souls 3 so far.
Seriously, bro?
Yeah, I like the idea that Dark Souls gargoyles are backwards. So rather than being stone things that are brought to life, they're alive to begin with, and they're hunted and then mounted on cathedrals.
I didn't think there was any other way. I thought that's how gargoyles were made.
What about in real life?
Yeah.
Is that why they're extinct in real life? Because we hunted them all?
No, yeah, because they were gargoyles and then they were like cursed or something, and so they turned into stone.
You know that cartoon series Gargoyles is only partially based on fact.
The best cartoon series ever, though.
It's okay. So that was Morne, everyone. I hope you learned a lot.
Well, thank you, Richard, for doing this again.
Thank you, Sinclair. Oh.
You know, sometimes people ask me, how is it that we do so many podcasts together? And actually, the answer to that is going to be located in another podcast that I'm editing at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty exciting, right?
I can't remember what it is. If someone said, why do you keep doing podcasts with Sinclair? I'd be like, I don't know. It's just a routine at this point. I get up in the morning and I check my inbox and it says, get over here.